Honorable Janji, in that order.
Thank you, Chair. For DCS, I wanted to go to slide 6 because I wanted to understand the public-private partnership structure and how it works. Slide 6, you have 5 entities there, the 20% that each has. Now, I wanted to know, where does the department fit into that? Do those entities then report to the department? Because if each of the entities, like G4S, you know, those entities, where does the department fit in, and where does G4S then fit in light of what happened? I just wanted to understand that part.
Sorry, Honorable Nuvutruchen, I was distracted a bit.
Do you want me to repeat the question, Chair?
Please.
Don't deduct my minutes.
No, you're starting now.
Okay, in slide number 6, I wanted to understand the public-private partnership, how it's structured and how does it work. So there it shows the 5 entities, and I'm assuming that the 20% is the shares. So where does DCS fit into all of this?
Yes, thank you, Honourable Chairperson. The Department of Correctional Services is contracted to the Bloemfontein contract, concession contract, basically meaning that you have a consortium of those shareholders that appear on slide number 6.
So in the light of what happened with the fire, it's only G4S who takes responsibility. The rest don't take any responsibility for the fire at all?
It is actually the consortium. G4S has a role as a contracted operator. That's why when we gave G4S the notice of takeover, we actually referred to the consortium. Even when we answered to the letter of legal contest, we indicated that we can only deal with the consortium.
Okay, fine, thank you. And then go to slide 16. There are 50 disputes with G4S, and I'm assuming that these disputes is covered from 2022-23 financial year?
I'm going to request that the acting Deputy Commissioner in the Office of the National Commissioner talk to that slide on the disputes through you, Honourable Chairperson.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, National Commissioner. The slides on disputes with G4S is actually handled by the Acting Director, Advocate George Mahlangu. So with your permission, Chairperson, I'm going to request him to please respond on this one. Thank you.
Yeah, no, Honourable Chairperson, through you, let me just respond. The
National Commission, you're saying I must respond?
No, I'm saying through you, Honourable Chairperson. These are disputes that covers the past 3 years, up to January 2023.
Okay, so normally these disputes, when do they get resolved? Because the contract is ending in 2026, so when do you expect these disputes to be resolved?
And through you, Honourable Chairperson, the disputes are resolved in the sittings of the Supervisory Committee. At the moment, the Supervisory Committee is not sitting, because there is a vacant seat of an external expert who is supposed to be appointed. The process of appointing the external expert is underway. I think by now the closing date has passed, and ourselves and the consortium, the department and the consortium, is supposed to sit through a process of appointment of an external expert.
Okay, thank you. I would just like to add in support of what Honourable Horn recently asked. I would also like to see how many disputes you've had over the past 5 years, and then when these disputes have been resolved. I'd like Honourable Horn asked and requested that information, I would also like that. And then the temporary management. Again, the structure, I would like to know how it works. The temporary management is now in charge of MCC. Now, yesterday, G4S explained the structure of the 3 directors. Now, where do they fit in with the temporary management, or do these 3 then follow? I understand you said that G4S is still there, but these are director positions. So where do they fit in with the temporary management and the temporary director?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The temporary manager came in to take over from the center director, meaning that in the space that is, the box that is in the middle, in that structure, where it is indicated that the center director of MCC is Mr. Joseph Munyanti. In that space, that's where you have the temporary manager.
Okay, so the other 2 are still there and work together as a team?
They are still there and work together as a team, but with regards to the management and the functioning of the center, the temporary manager will then take the final decision.
Okay. You listed in your slides all of the disputes, all the violations and failures. So what is going to be done about those? What guarantee do we as women, especially the women of South Africa, have? You know, understanding clearly that there will be there hasn't been any more escapes. It wouldn't be as easy as that was, especially with this team still there. So what guarantee can you give that this will not happen again?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. In the presentation, there is a slide where we are presenting the action plan that will be followed by the team and the temporary manager. We are already implementing that action plan. That's why at this moment we can say with certainty that all the inmates, all the offenders that are at Mangaung Correctional Center have been accounted for, meaning that we have checked their fingerprints against the records that are there. We have also taken photos of them and checked, so the photos, so every offender that is in that facility as we speak has been accounted for. So those actions are the actions that we are implementing and monitoring as we go. And as I've indicated, we have control of those actions. If I can just give an example, there was a number of offenders that were resisting to be verified, and we insisted on that happening. And because of the control we have over the facility, all of them ended up being verified with the assistance of the EST team from Grootvlei, and also with the employees that are there at MMC.
Thank you, Chair. Those are my questions.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nivot Strochen. Honorable Yako.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think for the sake of progress, I'm going to just do maybe a preamble, ask a few questions based on this report, and then pose some questions to the Minister. I think we've been deliberating on this for 2 days now, and we're extremely tired, and I don't think we have any tangible answers or any tangible kind of direction as to where we should go, and nothing is coming out. If I'm going to say it in closer, from what we are doing, and I hope at some point we're going to keep picking at it until something comes out and remedies are made. There's 3 elephants here, but the biggest elephant is the white elephant, which is G4S, which has hindered progress across. And I think they've had their way for a very long time, and which is why they have made this work so difficult that we are here now where we are. We've gone to correctional service centers. The commissioner will know. We've seen what they can do with the resources that they have. I'm talking about state-owned ones, state-run ones. We've seen how you deal with overcrowding. We've seen how you are able to be self-sustainable in some. We've seen how you're able to have animals breed, make furniture from scratch, rehabilitate. We've seen all those things. Also, we've seen how G4S is a cut above the rest, and primarily because of the 7 billion that we've spent over the 20 years for G4S. And for me, it begs the question as to why did it take so long for Correctional Services and the Ministry to decide on terminating that contract? Because it seemed to me, had this not been a factor right now, it would have maybe been renewed in 2024. So that concerns me. And then moving to the report, I'm just going to ask a few questions. So on page 7, you've got a graph there. I don't know if you can go to it now. Slide 14. Yes. No, 14. Yeah. So you say there, this is your reports as from 2017 to 2023. And you had an incident in 2022 when someone died of unnatural causes, and that is not recorded there. There's a 0. You've got death, but there's nothing, the death investigation, and you've got 0 in 2022. And it should have been recorded that you had an incident that happened in 2022 of Thabo who killed himself, but it's not recorded there. And I'm wondering why that is.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. We are not reporting it as an unnatural death. We are reporting it as an escape. In the financial year 2022, we had 2 escapes. The one in May and the one in December. We are reporting it as an escape.
But you had not captured it as an escape at the time of 2022 then. Should you not then reconfigure that in 2023 to say, we had thought it was an unnatural death at the time because that's what you reported. That's what you claimed it was, and G4S claimed that there was a death of Thabo at the time. And you should have then reconfigured it in 2023 to say, no, now that the evidence has come through, true, we are then listening that to A. Or that should have been an addendum to that graph because then it doesn't make sense.
Through you, Honorable Chairperson, I agree with the Honorable Member. This report is a report that was prepared for the Portfolio Committee as of this period, after, obviously, the financial year 2022. If this report was, and it is after, of course, we have received our final report. And now, if this report, this presentation, this slide was worked on before we received our final report, it would reflect as an unnatural death.
But you do note that it reads as untrue based on the evidence that you had in 2022 and now, without a side note saying that what should have happened is this. What was recorded in 2022 is this. That's what I want to flag. Secondly, National Commission, on page 8, you talk about an integrated security system that's able to detect cell phones in the facilities. And how do you think that Thabo Bester was found with a cell phone in his cell? If that integrated security system that you've put here, which I think, had I been you, I would have taken out, because that's not what it did. It did not detect that cell phone that came into his cell at the time.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Well, our report shows that the officials that were managing the control rooms did not do their work, including the fact that even cameras were tampered with. So the system is there. It has this functionalities, but we still rely on honest officials that are committed to do their work, Now, when we find out that they have not done their work, we implement consequence management. But the systems are there. They are trained, and there is on-site support at all times. If something goes wrong with the system, it shows, and the technicians on-site are supposed to attend to it. But technicians can only attend to it if it is reported. And also, if it is reported and technicians don't attend to that error, also those technicians obviously will be found wanting through investigation processes. And that's what our investigation report is indicating. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair. On page 11, there's a sequence of events that you've outlined here, and maybe the Minister will come in and, with you, Commissioner, and make me understand why you would have a meeting. So it says SEPS informed G4S that they changed the inquest to a homicide, and G4S informed DCA's controller on the 6th of June. And it seems to me, and then the outcome of this investigation was not provided to DCAS until the 31st of March. And you then add a bit of a part there, which I think is a way of apologizing for your inaction, which says that the letter from G4S, however, indicates the death of Inmate Thabo Bester was now a homicide, meaning that they still consider the body as that of Thabo Bester. So you allowed the narrative of a Thabo Bester who was then murdered, but the name Thabo Bester still remains there, even though you knew that that person who died there, or the person who was brought there dead, was not the person. Why would you allow G4S to only give you that investigation a year later?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. We did indicate upfront in the presentation and in the report the difficulties that we faced with getting information from G4S, the evasiveness, and outright refusal. We have the evidence in the investigation report.
And as DCS, you don't have control over G4S whatsoever. They're just allowed to say to you, we're not going to give you what you want.
We have taken steps. That's why we continued with our investigation. And the recommendations are pointing to the fact that we need to issue out notices in line with the contract to deal with this type of transgressions or non-compliance, but also, as we are sitting here this evening, we have taken control of the facility, and it is for that reason. But if we go back to 6 June, at that time, the department had not received, let me put it this way, the investigators had not received the autopsy and DNA reports.
Okay. On page 13, you say findings of the investigation. The sequence of events outlined in the report substantiates that there were a number of breaches on the contract leading up to the escape of Thabo Bester. And to the Minister, what is going to happen with regard to these breaches to this contract?
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. One, think that maybe I must correct Honorable Yako. When you started, you said maybe we are saying we will not renew the contract because of this incident. We have said it many years ago. Even in this committee, we have also said it, that our intention is that when the contract expire in 2026, we do not have any intention to extend it or to renew it. We said it in this committee. We have also said it in public. And with regard to the question you're asking now, is that it is part of the issue of the legal opinion. What then should be done with all these breaches? Because as you are aware, as you will have seen, there are a lot of litigations between the department and MCC. So whatever decisions that we need to take must be informed by, must be based on proper legal basis.
That's your final answer.
Yes.
Okay.
Unless you want us to litigate in this house.
That's not needed. That comment was really not needed, Minister. What is the obligation of DCS with regards to the body that was found? The body that was not Thabo Bester, that was found on the premises of G4S.
The obligation of DCS would be to report the incident to the police, which was duly done. In the instance that, let me go back to the first report that we received, that this was an unnatural death. One of the things that we tested through our investigators is to check if G4S did inform the next of kin. And the response that we received from G4S was that they could not find the next of kin because we wanted to get to the point where the body gets to be, given to Dr. Maguduma. So our investigators actually called the next of kin that is indicated in the profile of Thabo Bester, who is the uncle. And just with one phone call, we're able to connect with the uncle. So if we have an offender that dies through a natural death or any kind of or even an incident of harm that happens to an offender, we report to the police and we inform the next of kin.
No,
Apart from the medical treatment and other treatments
Sorry,
that will then
I just
provide.
want you to backtrack a bit. So you're saying that when you found the body, you were able to get in touch with the uncle?
Through you, Honourable Chairperson, yes. Yes, Honourable Member.
So why did G4S come here and say to us that they were unable to get hold of the uncle, and then they then handed the body over to Maguduma?
5 minutes.
I'll be done, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. That is the basis of the outcome of our report. As we were investigating, that's what we are indicating in the report.
So what G4S is saying is false, that they were unable to get hold of the uncle so that the body would then be handed over to the next person because you were able to get hold of the uncle.
Through you, Honourable Chairperson, that's exactly what I'm saying. It is in our report, and we have records of that interaction. Actually, even the official of G4S that was charged with this responsibility was interviewed, and there is an affidavit that talks to the account of G4S, but we have our own account.
So Mr. Groenewald and Mr. Groenewald basically came here and lied to the House to say that they could not get hold of the uncle on the day. Thank you very much, Commissioner. Just one last thing. How many deaths have been recorded at MCC that are unnatural?
Honourable Chairperson, I would request that we go back to the table.
You recorded 0 there.
We have listed this according to financial years.
Okay.
And we are referring to which financial year, Honorable
No,
Member? Apologies.
it's fine, Commissioner, I'm covered. I just am covered.
I did answer this question
You did,
before.
yeah, you did,
Yes,
no, you
so
did.
that's why I'm saying
Yeah,
which year are we
you
referring
did.
to?
No, I'm
Yes.
covered. Just one second last thing, Chair. Looking at the gravity of the matter that we have at hand right now, looking at the fact that you apprehended Thabo Bester and he's now in Hosimamburo, how secure are you that you are going to keep him safe so that whoever orchestrated any of this is unable to get hold of him? Because if they can take a body and put it and plant it in a cell at maximum prison, they're able to do anything to him right now. How are you making sure that he is safe right now in order to account fully until this process is over and we can find out who was involved and how deep this goes?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The standard that we apply to offenders of high risk, like Thabo Bester, is the same. Obviously, we also look at the type of crimes that that offender would be serving for or sentenced for.
I think, can you guarantee his safety or not?
He is safe in terms of the security plan that we have put in place.
Okay. Just lastly, Minister, are you happy with your performance with regards to this?
Yeah, I have done what I was supposed to do and ensured that after I was informed by the inspecting judge, I informed the National Commissioner, who told me of the investigation that is already underway, which unfortunately he said he could not share it at the preliminary stages because it was still at infancy. The information was not enough at that time because I asked him, but why didn't you tell me about this? And that's what he said. And I emphasized the issue that this matter is important, it must be prioritized. And I followed up, and from time to time he will tell me that it's a sensitive matter, there is multiple bodies, there is an ongoing investigation that we must not jeopardize. But there is investigation that is underway and is being attended to.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Chair, I think I have
Honorable
a minute. I'll give it to Fosi.
Okay, Honorable Khoza.
Chair, it's me.
Oh, okay, okay.
Iminute ayinganikwa
So
ngiyami.
you will have 11 minutes, 16 minutes. Thank you very much. Honorable Ramulube.
Thank you, Chair. My voice is a bit quirky. I don't know whether I'm developing flu or throat, or maybe it's because of us we've been speaking a lot for the past 2 days. Chair, let me welcome the report from the DCS and the Minister. Afternoon again, colleagues, or evening now. Chair or Minister and the National Commissioner, how much would you say the G4S would have to pay if there's an escape in the, what would be the amount of the penalty if there's an escape in the facility? How much is it? I'm not speaking of those monies of litigation, Minister, that you've made of the penalty if there's an escape in the MMC.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I'm going to ask the Acting Director, Contract Management, to respond to the issue, the question.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Chairperson. Normally, in cases of escape, the observation fine is just under 1 million. So that is what should be expected for G4S to pay.
What is under 1 million? Even 1 rand is under 1 million.
I was about to say that.
Precisely 900,000.
Can we get accuracy of that report, please? and also have a report of how many escape actually would have transpired in the MCC. Bearing in mind also our oversight visit that we did last year in April, the mention of the escapes that they would have transpired, including the Thabo Bester one, including the one in December of the person who escaped in the hospital. Can we, through you, Chair, get that detailed report? Commissioner, you made an indication that you got to be aware of the escape in January. Is that correct?
I got to be aware of the escape after receiving the report. The report I received on the 22nd of March.
So in January, you were not unaware of a possible escape from someone or anything?
In January
Yes, 2023.
2023, I was aware of a draft investigation report that was submitted by the investigators through the controller to the director contract management. It was a draft report which had information that pointed to the escape with all the information that was supporting that. That is the report that I followed up the director contract management on to say that you have received a report. It's, we need to finalize this report so we can be able to firstly report the escape to SAPS, and we can then put in motion our own processes of tracking and tracing. The response that I received was that at that time, the director was still considering the report and additional information, so it would not be a report that would put me in a position of reliability in terms of concluding that definitely there is an escape.
An assurance based on the report says on the 12th of January, the controller would have opened an escape case with SAPS. That is on your report. Who is the official that opened a case? The one who's a controller in the MCC, who's based in the MCC?
Through you, Honorable Chairperson, is Mr. Mahonono.
What would have happened since with Mr. Mahonono 3 months later after opening that case? What is the current status of that person right now?
Through you, Honorable Chairperson, Mr. Mahonono is contemplated for suspension. We are continuing with the investigations under the unit, departmental investigation unit. He is also currently providing information and statements that we need for us to investigate broader the role of G4S in the whole incident.
Do you suspect any foul play from his side to be equally implicated in this plan to get Bester escape?
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. In answering that question, I would say that as the department, we are at this moment not convinced that he acted with due care with regards to his responsibilities. And we are pointing to that in the report. For instance, on the Saturday of that long weekend, Mr. Mahonono visited the correctional facility. He always does that. And he goes to 3 places. He goes to the control room, he goes to the kitchen, and he goes to Broadway. But on that night, he did not go to Broadway. These are some of the issues that point out to the fact that he did not act with the care and the responsibility that was required of him. And he acted out of his normal routine. But as I've indicated, we have contemplated him, and we are actually getting more information from him and more statements, especially about inmates or offenders that can assist with more information, and the officials of G4S.
Is he the only one suspended?
He is not the only one. The director, contract management, is suspended. The deputy controller is contemplated for suspension. Both of them have been removed from Mangaung.
When do you perhaps see you concluding the investigation? Especially around the implicated ones who are suspended currently.
Honorable Chairperson, without necessarily giving, specific time frames, I would say that it would not take us more than 2 months from now to finalize that, because we need to take these officials through disciplinary processes, and there are timelines in terms of the Labour Relations Act and the basic conditions of employment.
Minister, I want to go back to an exchange between you and Honorable Breitenbeck. Especially at the time that Justice Cameron was informing us regarding the telephone discussion between or vis-a-vis the letter regarding the issue of Mangaung. Did Justice Cameron in certainty mention that in your discussion in your phone call discussion that Bester was out?
No. It was still an uncertain thing that there is suspicion, and but that there could be some credence that needs to be investigated. Hence, I immediately called the National Commissioner to say that with this information coming from the judge that there could be some credence, we need to act with priority on this matter. But it was not with certainty. There was still
Uncertainties.
uncertainty whether it's true, whether it's possible, and it was still unbelievable. But I understood the fact that if it came from him,
It's a matter that
must be
needs to be
action.
treated with agency.
yeah,
Did he come back when it was certain that there is an escape of Thabo Bester in the MCC? To certain you now.
no.
Chair, I want to go to the contract between DCS and Mangaung. I understand the discussion that says you are seeking legal recourse on the matter regarding getting out of the contract and so forth and so on. But I just want to go back. Yesterday, Honorable Kola made mention or raised an issue on the fire detectors in Broadway, and there was an indication that says they were not there, and there was a follow-up to say, didn't the management of the center seat fit that? Chair, I'm being Jigs is, and I hope my time is not going to be taken by Jigs, Chair.
Thank you very much, Judge. Proceed, Honorable Ramulubeng.
Thank you. Chair, I made an indication that Honorable Kola yesterday raised an issue of fire detectors, and there was an indication that they're not there in Broadway, and there was a follow-up that says, didn't they see it fit that fire detectors should be put in place? They raised issues of the contract between them and DCS, so which does not allow them or permit them to do that. Clause 8 and Clause 9 of the main contract allows for a contractor to propose changes to the contract. In this instance, it means G4S would be able to, install those fire detectors. Is this true? Can really Clause 8 and Clause 9 speak to that? If indeed, are we able to have G4S installing them? So that we understand whether they wanted to install them or they just chose not to do it.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. It is true that there is a provision in the concession contract for that, Section 8 and 9, and upon application, DCS would consider that, and it is an improvement that is necessary to enhance the security of the institution, and will allow that to happen.
Did G4S be made aware of that provision?
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. I would want to believe that they know about that provision. I think the main issue is that they should have applied. But I must indicate that there was a review done of the infrastructure and its limitations, and the issue of fire detectors was raised in that report, and that report was submitted to G4S. It was the investigation or the review was done by the facilities unit from the Department of Correctional Services with the assistance of Department of Public Works and Infrastructure.
You are left with 2 minutes plus 1 minute of disturbance, so 3 minutes.
Thanks, Chair. What remedial action should be considered by the department, bearing in mind the embarrassment of this incident that it would have cost the country? What remedial action do you propose should happen, Minister and National Commissioner? We're sitting with a crisis that has plunged us into a serious embarrassment as a whole country. And two, do we have a roadmap to remedy ourselves in this whole situation?
Yeah, thank you, Honourable Member. The first remedial action is from our side, hence we apologize for this incident. As the custodians of the Correctional Services Act, we understand that this happened at the MCC G4S operated facility. But we take responsibility because we are the custodian of the Correctional Services Act. That is the first remedial action, is to apologize to the country. And indeed, it was dangerous that this guy was let off the hook by the G4S officials. The second one is the one that we prefer not to go too much into it because of the legal implications, where we are still seeking a legal opinion on the issue of the termination of the contract or not and all that, and also assessing our own capability, whether we have the capacity to take over. Because as you will have seen from the presentation, the facility has got about 500 and something employees.
507 officials.
507 officials. So taking over can't be an overnight thing. So you need to build that capacity. There is infrastructure, there's technology, there's a number of things that needs to be considered. So all are the things that we are attending to, and they will be able to, when we are ready, within a reasonable space of time, inform the committee of our decision of you.
Immediately after getting that legal advice, I would propose, Chair, through you, that they do inform the committee so that we equally could have a say on what should happen. Because some of us where we're sitting, we are vying for a total termination of the G4S contract. And sitting here, I understand the implication, Minister. Sitting here, I get worried if that should happen in 2 months' time. We seem not to be ready to take over the institution. It worries me sitting here. Because of my next question was going to be, are we ready to take over the institution if in 2 months' time we're given that opportunity? Because the situation we're facing, it can be correct. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, maybe we...
Sorry, Minister, before you answer, what was your proposal? I lost the first part of the proposal.
I'm saying immediately after they seek the legal views, they must bring them to the committee so that we equally can contribute towards that, especially on the matter of termination of the G4S contract. Chair.
Yeah, Chairperson, I don't want to appear disrespecting the honorable member of parliament. I thought you were going to give guidance on that request.
We will deal with it when we deliberate.
Okay.
So the reason I was saying Minister, is because as I was trying to, in fact, as I was asking her to repeat the response, we were already responding. So I thought because I had interrupted you that I must give back to you.
No, I'm referring to
Okay, that issue.
to her request. I suspect you understand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No.
Okay.
We will deal.
Thank you.
No, I'm fine, Chair. My minute, Chair, we can give it to Honorable Janji.
No. No, there's nothing. But there's something. There's something suspicious about Honorable Janji and Honorable Horn. They disappear, they come late, but when it's their time to speak, 1 minute before then they come in. That's what happened yesterday with you. That's why your time was expropriated, half of your time. Now it's Honorable Janji. Yeah, so you're just in the next 16 minutes, it will be your time to close. Now it's Honorable Khoza, then it will be you.
Ngibonge sihlalo ukuthola ithuba. I just need to ask a question to the commissioner or anyone from that side. Is the person arrested in Tanzania the same person that escaped from MCC on the 3rd of May? If so, how do you know?
Through you, Honorable Chairperson, it is the same person. In the earlier session, SAPS did indicate that fingerprints of this person were taken. They were matched with the records that are there in the database of SAPS and our own database as DCS. And that matched, and it is on the basis on which even the authorities from Tanzania allowed the process of deportation to take place. But also beyond the fingerprints, there is also facial recognition of our own officials from correctional services who were charged with the responsibility of watching over Thabo Bester before he was transferred to Mangaung. They were part of the delegation that went to Tanzania to do the identification. But I would, I would emphasize the fingerprint confirmation.
Okay, thank you. Who is this person? That's why I said a person. I did not speak about Thabo Bester, because from our earlier action with SAPS, they were not sure if they've got Thabo Bester. They're saying there's two other Thabo Besters with IDs there, but this particular one does not have a South African ID, which makes it very difficult for him to be identified. My next question would be, how do you know that this person is indeed Thabo Bester? It could be Vusi Khoza, it could be Thabo Mokoena, or anyone else for that matter. Have you checked once, or is this a given name that you were given when you was arrested, arrived at your facility, gave you a name, Thabo Bester? Did you do a different confirmation, either by death of certificate from church, birth certificate, some letter from school, or even an ID document? What other form of confirmation have you done to say this person is indeed Thabo Bester, or you just took the name that they gave, that he gave when he arrived at your facility?
Through you, Honorable Chairperson, the verification and the information I'm referring to is supported by the warrant that we received when we admitted Thabo Bester in the earlier years of his incarceration. But I must also emphasize that the fingerprints were taken, they were matched with the fingerprints that were existing in the country, in the database of SAPS and our own database. Based on that, it was confirmed that the person who was in Tanzania at that time is the person who was once in the correctional system of South Africa.
Can I interrupt, Chairperson, through you? I am saying the person, that's why we say the person. Leave that Tanzania story, we've passed that. My question is, have you verified that this person is Thabo Bester before now and now? Or you took a name that came with the warrant and you went to the system and it said Thabo Bester? I'm saying, have you independently verified? If I were to be arrested, I'll have my fingerprints taken, or my ID would be demanded to say, show us your ID, or it's you, so we've got you, and this is your name. I'm asking a simple question. How did you do a different verification to say this person is a Thabo Bester or it's an imposter, a Vusi Khoza, using the name of Thabo Bester? Simple question like that, Commissioner, should be very simple, right?
Through you, Honorable Chairperson, this is not, in my view, is not a simple question, and I can explain why. I have indicated in my answer that, okay, the first confirmation is that there's no ID identification of Thabo Bester, and he's not the first inmate or offender who is in that category. When they arrive, we take fingerprints, we compare with what we have in the warrant, we take pictures, the mug shots, we file, and we allocate them a correctional services number. And we then track them through the system like that. Of course, the same fingerprints will match the fingerprints that will be there in the SAPS database and throughout the criminal justice system. So that is the basis on which we were able to ascertain that the person who was outside the system is Thabo Bester, as per the information that we have. Now, with regards to further verification, that is what the South African Police Service is busy investigating, and with regards to other particulars of identity, that is what the Department of Home Affairs will also be able to address. But in as far as the correctional system is concerned, the person who is now back in the correctional system is Thabo Bester in terms of the information that we have.
Is a man known as Thabo Bester.
Chairperson.
Thank you,
to help
Chair.
a bit. Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, in terms of what the Commissioner says, in terms of our systems, that is our identification. But tomorrow, in the morning, I know the committee might not have that privilege or the time, but the Minister of Home Affairs will have a press briefing to explain exactly who is this person in terms of the national identification system of the country.
Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you, Chair. I think what the Minister has just said helps, because the Commissioner was not helping at all. But we shall wait for that press briefing. We heard of the 112 intervention, current litigation, 110 million. Is that for a 2013 incidents and the report that came out?
It is for the 2013 intervention.
All right. Some of the information that I gleaned from that is that there was a gross violation of the rights of inmates. People were brutalized, tortured, etc., etc. What were there consequences for the officials in that prison after that report? I'm sure that report came up with recommendations. Were there consequences for either G4S or the officials that were involved?
There were consequences in line with the concession agreement, and we can provide that information as the department.
Through you, Chair, were certain people and individuals held accountable? When I say held accountable, Officer A and B and X and Y, Z be reported to the police so that the police can investigate for torture. Did G4S do something about their own officials who were involved in such brutal and inhuman violation of inmates' rights? Or justified?
Through you, Honorable Chairperson, I have indicated that we can provide the details. At the moment, I do not have them with me, but I know that the outcome of that process came up with recommendations and they were implemented based on the outcome.
So you will provide that in writing?
Yes, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. That suffices. In Thabo Besta's cell, no, my former cell, cell 35, an unauthorized laptop was found. No, an authorized, we're told it was an authorized laptop was found that was given to him for his use, and a contraband cell phone that was illegally in there. G4S went on to say that, yes, they would at some point allow laptops for those who are studying, even if that was disputed to say Thabo Besta finished studies long time ago. Here's my question. This laptop that Besta was using, was it issued by the Department of Correctional Services or was it his own personal laptop, and how did that laptop get into the facility?
I remember yesterday, it was said that it was his personal laptop.
Okay, Chair. I was not sure because I was told at some point that inmates are provided with laptops by the department. So I just wanted to check that at what level, but I understand there was a court case ruling there. And then what shocked me, maybe the officials there can assist me, was to say, what do you do to make sure that that laptop cannot be used for illegal activities? G4S says, no, we just check if it does not have an external modem. I mean, those are things of 2004 when Thabo Besta went to jail or before he was arrested. My understanding, well, the officials there will comment. My understanding is that if you have a laptop that is equipped with Wi-Fi capacity, all Thabo Besta needed was a cell phone, which was found in there with data. He creates a personal hotspots and he does his trading and his criminal activities from there. Any comment?
I agree with the observation, Honorable Chairperson, and that's why we were able to deal with the matter in our investigation report, and that's why the investigation report is recommending that we issue penalties, and that's why at the moment we have taken a temporary management, or we appointed a temporary manager so that we can be able to enhance the security in MMC.
Can you then agree that, okay, Minister wants to come in.
Honorable Minister.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chairperson. Just to add to the response of the National Commissioner is that you will remember that the inspecting judge said that there's a matter in the Supreme Court of Appeal, because what provide for the inmates to have this kind of facility was that there is a policy of the department that allows them, and the act that says they must study and so forth. But that policy does not say they must have laptops in their cells. It does not allow that. But there's a high court judgment that then said they must have access to the laptop in their cells if they are studying. So that is what we are now appealing, because we don't agree. And we agree with the Honorable Khoza that if someone has a laptop in his or her cell and have with the development of technology and have a cell phone, with the high level of smuggling, anything is possible. So that's why there's that appeal in the Supreme Court of Appeal on that judgment. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister, for agreeing with me that Bester was allowed to carry on his criminal activities right under the nose of G4S. It was he was either deliberately enabled or they were sleeping on the job. That is obvious. The next question I would want to ask, Bester, when he committed these heinous crimes against women, he was on parole for fraud. He's a fraudster, this one. When he comes in here, the first thing that you should say, close all the possibilities of fraudulent activities. He gets a cell phone in his cell. He gives a name that cannot be verified. He carries on trading. I would have expected that an extra care, particularly in the issues of technology, would have been taken to ensure that Bester does not carry on with his activities. However, my question is this. I was just commenting. My question is, when he was paroled, can you confirm that his parole was genuine or it was bought? Because for one to be able to pull such a huge scam right under everybody's nose is either he's extremely connected or he is moneyed. So can we go back to his parole for the initial fraud? Surely his fraud had to do with money. So this boy has always been moneyed from the look of things. Can you confirm that his parole was genuine, or you're not sure whether it was bought or genuine? Any comment?
I can confirm, Honorable Chairperson, through you, that this parole was genuine.
Based on?
Based on parole processes that are independent of influence from the department, based on the sentence plan that would have been implemented, and of course, as I've indicated, based on the system itself, the parole system.
Can we rule out influence of money? You are saying it's independent without influence, but can we rule out influence of money in the parole system? Can you stand here firm and say, I am ruling out the possibility of the influence of money in the parole system? Commissioner.
Through you, Honorable Chairperson, if there are instances like those, they are reported and we deal with them. But I would not sit here and speculate whether there's influence of money or not. What I'm definitely saying is that our parole processes are above board. If there is an allegation of corruption or any type of influence that is driven by financial gain, that can be brought before us. We'll look into that and we'll attend to it.
2 minutes left.
Chair, I want to move quickly to the track and trace team. Who made up the track and trace team? Were there private security companies involved?
Through you, Honorable Chairperson, there were no private security companies involved. The track and tracing team was made up of officials of government, mainly from correctional services.
Okay, no, that's fine. We'll check on that. The partners in the consortium each have got 20%. You said that there are attachments to this report. Is there an attachment to this report that you said will be made available that breaks down each and every party to the consortium in terms of who are the registered directors, et cetera, giving specific details? Is that in your report or not there?
That breakdown is not in the report. It's the breakdown that we will provide to the committee through you, Honorable Chairperson.
Okay, no, thank you very much. I would love to do that. In closing, this I'm directing to the Minister. Mr. Minister, our prisons have a population of 157,135 and overcrowding of 44.42%. It means they contain more than double the amount, almost more than double the amount that they're supposed to contain. Is that in line with the best international practices? Maybe I can throw in this one so that you can get a chance to respond because the chair will cut me. Is that in line with the international standards and best practices? Maybe let me stop there for now. Thank you, so that you can be able to respond. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chairperson. As you are aware, the prisons are governed by the Nelson Mandela rules of treatment of inmates and so forth. It is not in line, but there is no country in the world that does not have overcrowding. It's just a degree of overcrowding. Maybe there could be one or two, but it's a general norm across the globe. Overcrowding is a challenge for all states. And with us, it has been proven over time that we may not be able to develop infrastructure at the same pace as the courts are convicting people. Hence, this private-public partnership arrangement was conceptualized at a time to help with the situation of overcrowding and to build bed space capacity within a very short period of time. And we can say that was achieved because almost 5,000 bed and space within a short period of time was done. We have the benefit of the infrastructure. The issue is whether in terms of the operating contracts, the costs, which we are struggling to sustain. And it is for that reason that we do not want to continue with this model. And we announced earlier because we felt that it's not sustainable on our side. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Minister. On a light note, are you saying that there is overcrowding at Vatican City?
No, I don't want to be accused of blasphemy, Chairperson.
One question that arises out of what Honorable Khoza has said. With all the lapses that happened, especially with the issues of computer and internet, don't you think that those are some of the things that might also contribute or might have contributed in us getting grey-listed? If you have security facilities that are so vulnerable, that can also be vulnerable to money laundering and even terrorist planning, don't you think that that is a potential threat to national security and even how international world sees us?
Yeah, Chairperson, you will remember that on the issues of grey listing, they did point to the issues that we must attend to. Money wiring, fraud, laundering, that as and when it happens, it must be followed up, there must be arrest, it must be nipped as quickly as possible. So, and it is within the context of safety and security that you will have seen from the presentation that we are in engagement with the CSIR to help us to deal with this thing of the cell phones in the facilities. While we have the technology to detect, for example, like in Mangaung, in Hoshimampuru, and others of our facilities, but the human element always comes in, where there is this contraband, smuggling, and so forth. So that's why we're looking at CSIR to help us to develop a system that can enable us to block and so forth, and also while we comply with the laws, ICASA regulations and so forth, because some of the issues that arose is that if you block, you might block the entire place in communities, because if you remember the correctional facilities, there are also families that reside there and so forth. So you might block everyone from communicating. So it affects also the ICASA regulations. So we'll need also to apply with ICASA. But what I can assure the committee is that there is work that we are doing with the CSIR to find a technology solution to this challenge of cell phones or communications with the outside world by the inmates? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Janche.
Thank you, Chair. Since dear, it's late in the evening, Chair, and I'm in a position that I don't like because I have two risks I'm starting with that I would have missed the question posed and the interaction to allow my role of pick it up at the end. And the second risk is that I might be repeating things. And for that, Chair, to apologize, I think I did indicate to you, I had to attend an urgent matter that I needed to attend. And I would like, I'll therefore, as a way of not keeping everybody, perhaps to limit the issues. And maybe National Commissioner, if we can walk back before you took over as a National Commissioner in this space, whether it's BCC or MCC. My understanding is that there would have been an investigation that was done which involves your human rights people, Commissioner Chris Nissan and the department, and out of that there would have been a report that would have been compiled. As part of the handover and what you inherited, are you aware of that report?
I am aware of the report, and I must also indicate through you, Honorable Chairperson, that there was no handover. It is the reports that you would be aware of as you continue to do your work, and you try and see how you then accommodate the recommendations and what has been done from what comes out of those reports, and you include that in improving the environment as you move on.
No, thank you. Fair. I accept that, it's not all in that space. In this room, we're talking about tensions of handover, so it seems to be inherent in this. But I do know, just to go back to the handover, even a few days ago, I was reading, I have it at home, I was reading this handover report by the previous National Commissioner. It's in a document, so I don't know who it was given to, but I was browsing this handover report. But I'm not going to guess, you indicated that there was no proper handover. But the issue I'm going back to start with is, that report that you are aware would have had recommendations of things that needed to be done. And having taken over, are you able to talk to us about the implementation of those recommendations? Because it's a report that would have spoken, again, I'm staying on my issue, Chair. The report would have spoken on the systematic deficiencies, including issues of personnel in the space that we're talking about. Whatever its imperfections and limitations, but it had recommendations that needed to be attended to. Some would have included, in relation to this contract and this concession, the director was part of this supervisory committee and so on, and a lot of others. So my question to start is, have those recommendations been implemented?
Through you, Honorable Chairperson, I did indicate in my first answer that I am aware of the reports, including the handover report of the former National Commissioner. The process is what I alluded to when I was talking about the handover process. And I indicated also in my previous answer that in assessing whether those recommendations were implemented, one looked at the improvements that were put into the system. And earlier on in the discussion, I can just give an example. One of those was to make it a point that the supervisory committee works. And the challenge there was that a member of the supervisory committee, who's an external member, resigned. And when the former national commissioner left, he had started a process of appointment of the external member of the supervisory committee. We went through the process. We couldn't get the correct candidate. We had to re-advertise again. So there are those specifics where one would say that we were able to implement the recommendations. Earlier on, I spoke to the fact that through that handover report, there was a recommendation that in as much as you have got a contractual control and management process that is in the hands of the director contract management, we need to make it a point that at an operational level, there is a way for the reports on operations to come through to the management of correctional services. Hence, we then opened a line through the region that when they give us statistics and reports on operational matters, they must also include Mangaung. Even on our performance with regards to the annual report, we include Mangaung as part of the region, Free State, Northern Cape. And I did indicate also that on a weekly basis when we review the incidents, Mangaung is also included, MCC is also included. So it is out of those recommendations from the handover report by the former National Commissioner, but also a specific investigation report that was produced through the work that was done at Mangaung. There was a time that the department spent more than a month at Mangaung through different interventions led by the former National Commissioner. And that even led to the appointment of a chief deputy commissioner responsible for incarceration and corrections as the overall overseer of the two triple P contracts. And that is where also the initial idea of looking at a takeover came through.
Thank you for that response, NC. Maybe just before we leave there, can you then, in your own way, summarize and say, these were the recommendations, I'm looking for a scorecard here, that these were recommendations that you inherited and compared to what we have today and what we're dealing with in relation to this particular issue. Are you in a position to say there's one or two areas where we would have done better in relation to those recommendations? Or are you of the view that you have gone beyond that and you have actually become even better innovative? So that we leave that point. I want to be satisfied in that.
Through you, Honorable Chairperson, one of the areas of weakness, and it's an area that we have to attend to, is the annual reviews. Because as the supervisory committee meets to deal with the penalties that would have been imposed, every year there has to be an annual review of the contract, and that is what has not been done, and that is what we need to do.
Chair, as I leave that point, just as a small commentary. Thank you, National Commissioner. This point is important because even across departments, every year you've got action list and recommendations of the Auditor General. And there gets to be no attention to these issues, and we go back to the next process and deal with the same problems. So it is important that when you deal with this issue, looking back and walking back is important so that we're able to close those gaps. But I'm satisfied with the response. The next point, perhaps to invite the minister here. What has been demonstrated in the last 2 days, and I just want your comment, Minister. What has been demonstrated in the last 2 days is a silo approach between the different role players in this security setup. It's not even a silo. It's littered with tensions and everything else at the expense of work being done. Demonstrated in feet dragging, blame game. We have listened to the reports here. Those themes run through. And so the issue for me to get the minister perhaps commenting on this, because in this space, all of these role players needed to be coordinated by a particular center. Are you happy that we're going to be closing these 2 days, having received these reports, and we are seeing these gaps of almost lack of cooperation on this administration of justice in these corrections and some of the essential issues that we have seen?
Yeah, it is for that reason, Honorable Judge, that you will have heard me saying, for example, tomorrow Home Affairs will be giving a briefing on the issue of the national identification. It's because when we realize that there is no proper coordination, we then coordinated that. And since that coordination started in late March, there has been a lot of improvement between the various security cluster departments. And I think the experience we are gaining from this, we will obviously have to enhance it in the cluster coordination overall.
Thanks, Minister. Maybe to go back to the NC, there are a lot of loopholes in the system that has been demonstrated here by various reports. In particular, because the core mandate of this department is rehabilitation. That's the core, because that's why it's correctional centers and not prisons. But the biggest budget item of this is incarceration. If you have a budget of 25 billion, about 15 billion, it was 15.1 billion this year. That just goes on to one program, incarceration, less than what it was in the previous year. And yet what we have been dealing with here in the last 2 days, it's about problems in that program, which makes me to argue that the problem is not money. The biggest source of money is thrown into this program, but we remain with problems. How to fix that?
Through you, Honorable Chairperson, I agree that we are investing quite a sizable or biggest chunk of the budget of the department on incarceration, because we have to create conditions that are, humane and safe for offenders. But we are doing that at the backdrop of the issue that was discussed before, the issue of overcrowding and its impact, the issue of the state of our correctional facilities. Almost all of them cannot even carry the numbers that they are carrying because they are outrightly, dilapidated. We're talking at the backdrop of a ratio of correctional security officials that is way lower than it's supposed to be against the ratio of the offenders that we're dealing with. We're talking about applying that budget on a profile of offenders that has changed over years. Actually, the number of offenders that are saving life has dramatically increased. Now, and hence we are not getting the value for money that we're supposed to be getting. The system itself, I would say, suffocates the interventions that we are implementing in the incarceration space. Now, if we were to move more of the funds into rehabilitation, we would actually be weakening the impact of rehabilitation. And I can give an example to that. If we are to take offenders to the farm to go and practice their skills on agriculture, you need to have security officers there and agricultural technicians. Now, we just had an escape last week in Brantford, where 2 offenders escaped when they were at the farm. They were looked after by 2 officials, and those offenders were around 37. And those are the types of ratios that I'm talking about, and that's why every time we make this submission to National Treasury that the more you have the success of the criminal justice system, giving us more offenders to look after, with this mandate that we need to incarcerate them under humane and safe conditions and at the same time rehabilitate them. Please be aware of the fact that when we increase the numbers on the side of the police, when we increase the numbers on the side of prosecutors, you also need to look at the budgetary needs of the Department of Correctional Services, and that's a reality. Now, you have a situation where the whole value chain succeeds up to a point where we have these offenders in our facilities. But I'm talking about those that are inside the facilities. We have another big problem which is the offenders that are now in the parole system that would need to be monitored on a regular basis. And when you look at the numbers that are monitoring these offenders, and again we go back to the profile, and these matters are not reported too widely in any case in the media. We have our officials getting shot at by parolees because those offenders that would have been paroled, having served their sentences, end up, with a community that presents them with challenges, and they ended up going up back to the crime rings and all. So it's a really involved and deep-seated problem that we will not be able to deal with as the correctional system alone. We need that alignment.
I like what I'm hearing, but I'm going to stop it. I like what I'm hearing, and hopefully you are going to, Chair, we are going to interact, because as I end, the chairperson is a champion, and we are in the same space of this issue of saying to Treasury and everybody else, they must stop these budget cuts in the security cluster. Because before you grow it, you've got to stop first the budget cuts. So you're speaking to the converted. But I've not heard that, what you're saying today, in terms of how we deal with that. But the question that comes when you put that on the table, and I'll demonstrate with what comes out of your report, is an argument that says,
You have 1 minute.
yes, you can't deal and manage even what you have. Here you have presented to us 18 breaches of a contract, 18. 18 breaches. You've listed all of them. Besides you seeking legal opinion, I have not heard you don't seem shocked by the 18 breaches. I mean, in any standard, anywhere, in a contractual relationship, that you have these 18 breaches, it's supposed to mean that there's a non-existence of this relationship. What is your take about this? You've listed them to us unless you wanted us to just know. What does this mean in relation to, as we live here today, these 18 breaches still exist tonight at MCC in the manner that you have listed them? What are you saying to this committee? And that's where I'm landing, Chair. Thank you, National Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Chairperson. The current state of affairs at MMC, Mangaung Correctional Center, is that the director who was responsible for managing that center has been removed and we've installed a temporary manager. Now, we installed a temporary manager after less than 10 days of receiving this report of these breaches. We received the report on the 22nd and we installed the temporary manager on the 30th of March. And we presented to the portfolio committee a plan that we are implementing on how we are addressing those security breaches, including re-looking at the issue of the fact that some of the cameras do not cover the extent at which they are supposed to cover, including ensuring that we improve the technology there so that you don't have any person having the ability to switch on, switch off, or change the direction of cameras. Those are the issues that we will address. And I would say that we acted with the required speed. And G4S is saying that we are not supposed to be there. They have taken us on a legal route, and we've responded to that because we are convinced that what we are doing is correct. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
No, thank you very much, Commissioner. I would not say that we have come to the conclusion of our meeting. We are just going to adjourn or take a pause, as Honorable Janji always say. One, we have received some documents from G4S that we need to go through. Mr. Ramano here was very fascinated by this document. He has been ticking quite a lot of things that he thinks that they need to be looked at. So we would need time to look at this document. And in addition to that, I think there were other additional, in fact, there's other additional information that members requested today. We will need to get that information also. Then as a committee, we will sit, and after we have gone through the relevant information, to say what is our next course of action. Do we invite G4S or anybody who is here for further information in the form of a meeting? Are we going to be satisfied with the information that we would have read in the documentation that we would have received? There was also a request that I think that was made by Honorable Breitenbach, and I think there was no objection to that request, that we need to hear from the technicians from Integron, not the people who were here. We will still have to discuss how do we process that, which means that we will have to find time in our program, parliamentary program, outside of constituency period. And then outside of the budget process, because we have a seriously congested budget process. Things as they are now, we will be debating the Office of the Chief Justice. What is the date? On the 9th. which means we should have already had budget hearings of the Office of the Chief Justice. We need to meet with the Chief Justice on the 5th. We've got 10 other entities to meet. We've got pressing legislation, including JICS one, that we need to take a position as to whether we would allow all the cabinet processes or we would have to take a different route. So we'll take all of those things into consideration and read the information before us. After that, we can have proper deliberations because the report out of this process would need to go to the House for a report and debate. So we would need to have clear recommendations to the House. So we can't go to the House with half-baked information. So we will need to be sure that the information we have, to the best of our knowledge, is the information that we are satisfied that we can advise the House properly. But I would like to take this opportunity to thank everybody, to thank the ministers, deputy ministers, the judge, all the senior officials that are here from all the departments, members for good behavior. Generally, yes, there were those exceptions. We would improve on those exceptions. But thank you very much. This is a process that was necessary. It's a process, in fact, what happened goes to the heart of the challenges that faces our country. As Parliament, we had to pass 3 GBV bills within a short space of time because women of our country are being killed, they are being, there's a lot of violence, emotionally and otherwise, but more importantly, there is physical violence on women of our country. So the country is under threat. So when this thing happened, all of us felt threatened. Not only women of our country, but they are part of us. When they get raped, it's part of who we are. These are our mothers, these are our sisters, these are our wives, these are our girlfriends. So they are part of who we are. So for spending all this time trying to go to the root of the problem was not a time wasted. But also I would like to thank you for the spirit with which you have participated in this meeting. Sometimes it was a little bit hot, but there was also a lot of humor. The minister was very humorous. With I won't repeat it. Others, there's another one that is trending on the social media. What is it? It's not the other one. The criminal record. Yeah, the other ones that I'm a South African by a criminal record. So it's ngesixhosa bathi kuyahlekwa noba sekufiwe noba sekubhujiwe. Thank you very much, colleagues. So we will inform everybody if there's a need to meet again, but there will be, I think the Integriton would need us to have a further meeting. We might give other people to maybe to do some rebuttals, but that will be communicated to all of you. So I hope that G4S, you were heavily entertained here. There is no need for summons. These are very warm people. It's good company to have. So next time, I think an invitation will suffice. Intercretan also wanted to join G4S. We are coming, but would like to be summoned. I think you stayed with us for 2 days. Very warm environment. It's just accountability in action, because that is one of the tenets of our democracy. Thank you very much.